episodes. Hello everybody, Tyrone TG3 here. Pokemon Horizons, episode 11. This episode's title, The Arbolive Forest. This episode's interesting. So we get our first, we're divvying out the crew episode, which is good. I'm really liking that we're starting to get crew member specific episodes. And we start this one with pretty much a Molly episode. But it's funny because Nimona is still there. Nimona's there and then she just bounces. The episode starts off and she's just like, all right, y'all, peace. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. It's so weird. Nimona's character, and obviously we still got a long ways to go, and I'm sure we're going to see her again for several other episodes. I mean, hell, she even has her own eye catch in the in between commercials. But, man, I got to be honest. As far as introductions, for a character that's well known in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, excuse the bottle, that was weak. I'm going to be real with you. That was weak. Just because, I don't know, I expected a lot more from her. I know that her main purpose in the last episode was to get Brassius to start battling again. So it's good to see that she's technically as a champion, she's part of the Pokemon League's association when it comes to looking out for the gym leaders and stuff. So we got clarification on that, which is good. The downside, though, is she mostly was just there for the episode. Like she's there. We don't really see her do much. We saw her do a very brief battle, and now she's leaving. I guess they gave us a taste of Nimona and then just took her out. So I'm hoping we get a lot more of a focus on Nimona in later episodes, because I'm going to be honest, I think the biggest problem was that her first debut episode is one that she shares with Brassius, and that alone kind of messed her chances up. I think that's what kind of messed her up. I'm not sure why they decided to have both of them share that episode together, and it definitely doesn't do her any justice. But I want to say that hopefully she gets a proper episode later on down the line. But for her to just bounce like that, it's just like, okay, then why'd you even show up in this episode? I guess because they just wanted to show Pokemon Horizons is very much about the connecting one thing to another situation. Whereas in Ash's Pokemon series, the old one, it would be like if an episode ended, a new episode would start with Ash and his friends in the same walking animation. They'll be walking and it'd be the three of them going to the next plot location, where you didn't even need any memory of the episode prior to continue this episode, unless it was something that clearly ended on a way that had no choice but to continue onward for the next episode. In this particular case, Pokemon Horizons likes doing that thing where it connects the last thing immediately after. It's almost like they're all happening in one giant cycle of events. But when we get to this episode, we see that it's mostly just Liko and Molly, and then Roy's dealing with the Arbolive stuff much later. But we get some backstory, and a lot of people have actually been talking about the Wooper situation. Now, if you don't know, there's a Wooper, a Paldean Wooper that shows up in the episode that is injured already, and Liko tries to touch it right after she just did her Pokedex entry saying that it's venomous. When she touches it, her hand starts stinging. And this has led to a lot of people questioning exactly why Liko would do something so stupid. To me, I don't think this has a matter to do with intelligence. This is more of a crisis situation and her immediate need to try to help a Pokemon, which had her oversee some information that she was given. She used the Pokedex mostly to identify what the Pokemon was, but she didn't really use it in order to think about the poison and the venomous stuff that the Pokedex says afterwards. She just wanted to know exactly what it was that was on the ground hurt, if it's the Pokemon, and then she tried to help it immediately once she saw it was injured. And plus, she didn't know much about how the poison works. Yeah, the Pokedex tells her, but it's not really getting into huge detail about it. And obviously, that was just to show that trying to pick up Wooper traditionally isn't going to work. We're going to need a different way, which is why Molly shows up with the gloves and she's able to actually cure it. It's here that we learn that Molly comes from a long line of Pokemon doctors, aka Nurse Joys, which the series has been kind of pointing to anyway, but I was hoping the series would take it little bit by bit. Here we see that it kind of did that and kind of didn't. She's still vague on exactly what happened to her, so we're not going to get any like solid flashbacks or anything like that. But from what I see here, it looks like we are getting her telling at least the story of, hey, the reason I didn't want to be a Nurse Joy is because Nurse Joys are only really useful outside in the Pokemon Center. Outside of the Pokemon Center, they're kind of useless because they're not going to heal Pokemon that are in the wild, which tackles a very good point. Nurse Joys don't heal Pokemon normally in the wild, except for like the one that was in the Orange Islands. But other than that, they typically don't do that. So it's good to see that there is a character that actually tackles on that situation of what if you do if Pokemon are injured in all different areas, which is why she decided to join the Rising Volt Tacklers, which is a group of people that travel all around helping Pokemon, discovering treasures and whatnot. Obviously, the Pokemon are going to need medical care outside of just the traditional Pokemon Center. And if they're too far away from a Pokemon Center, then Molly's a doctor that can stand on by. So it definitely does dig into the reason as to why she's doing it. And it definitely gives a proper explanation of these things. In fact, I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the games have kind of tackled this as well, when some of the NPCs state that it's convenient that these Pokemon Center stops are out in the wild, and thus they don't have to worry about their wild Pokemon being injured while being too far away from a Pokemon Center. So, in a way, they kind of tackle this and kind of don't. I almost kind of wish they would go even further into this by stating that there's a app on your Pokédex that you can click on that can get you immediate help, and a Nurse Joy can come in on a mobile, on a Cyclizar or something. But that's digging way too deep into the medics and responses of Pokemon. They touch the surface level at least by tackling the fact that Molly is stating the Pokemon centers aren't everywhere, so that's her motivation for why she quit being a Pokemon doctor. So it's really cool to see that. Then we cut to the Arbolive battle, and we see that there's a giant Arbolive holding an ancient Pokeball in its neck. I stated in my discussion with Zach, which you can still watch on my channel actually, and you can also watch it on my Twitch channel. It's still up on both channels. I stated with Zach, while the plus side is it does add some questions to the ancient Pokeball, like why are there multiple and why are they scattered, it does sort of devalue Roy specifically. Reason being is because Roy was the character that was known to have the ancient Pokeball. He's even shown in the promotional art with it. He has it in his hands. And I like the idea that Roy was the only one with an ancient Pokeball. Now that there's multiple ancient Pokeballs, his doesn't really seem that much more special. Anyway, it doesn't seem like his exclusive item. Like, oh, everybody in the world doesn't have this except him. Now, again, the plus side is there's multiple, which raises questions. What's the connection between the ancient Pokeball and these giant Pokemon that have been seen in the Black Rayquaza? What's the connection between that and the pendant? So it does raise some questions, while at the same time, it sort of makes me look at Roy's ancient Pokeball that he had during his debut and just go, like now it doesn't really feel like it's his exclusive thing. Now it feels like it belongs to multiple factions. But I'm guessing that it probably gives it a collectathon type of situation where maybe the explorers will wind up finding an ancient Pokeball, and maybe an ancient Pokeball is connected to another Pokemon. We see in the boss battle, I like the idea that they go off of, and they've been doing this idea twice actually, where if fire is done in the forest and they'll endanger the other Pokemon, where in battles, Pokemon are very aware, well, the trainers to the very least, are very aware of the surroundings that they're fighting in. We saw this before with Freed and Charizard, where Charizard wanted to fight off against the bug Pokemon, but it couldn't because if it uses its fire attacks, then it'll set ablaze the whole forest. So it's good to see that they're really conscious about the areas that they're around. But it also does hinder it and make it so Pokemon can't fight at their fullest abilities. So unfortunately, we don't get Fuecoco using fire type attacks. Instead, it has to use Stomping Tantrum. But it is good to see that they're at least aware and conscious of their areas. I do like that Lico's plan is to get Sprigatito to sort of like throw its balance off by using Quick Attack in multiple areas and then knock it down with Stomping Tantrum from Fuecoco. So that was a good use of teamwork on both of their parts. And obviously the episode ends with Arbolive showing them the burned forest and how messed up it is. So we'll obviously get continuations for what's going on there. Now, I don't watch the preview, so I can't really give an explanation of that because I want each thing to be new. The only thing I've got new to go off of is the title. And thankfully, the title is very vague this time around, where it literally is just the future I choose, which who knows what that could be. The only other thing I could really comment on this episode was Liko's obliviousness to the fact that Dot is Neato thing. And at this point, I've decided to, after looking at it multiple times, while I am rolling my eyes at an analyst like Liko, who's very intelligent, can't see this one thing, I've pretty much pawned it off as this is a running joke, and this is the running joke they're going with. I just hope they don't stretch this as long as possible and make Liko look like an absolute fool every time this shows up. But as far as this one goes, I don't know. Liko, I guess that really goes to show Liko's intelligence. And obviously, being a smart character doesn't mean you're automatically going to get everything right. You're not a Mary Sue. You make mistakes. That goes without saying. I think the overlining question in hand is, if an analyst like Liko has been living in the same area for this long up to this point with the Rising Volt Tacklers, would she or would she not notice something as basic as, oh, Needle Thing's outfit is here. Oh, you keep hearing the Needle Thing music every time the stream or the YouTube videos start. Like, would you put two and two together? Would you be able to, if it's patternized enough? These are questions that obviously go much deeper than Pokemon's going to want to tackle until they get to that point. But it is something that raises questions as the time is being. But with that being said, other than that, I thought the episode was fine. I like that they decided to tackle Molly's whole backstory and why she does what she does. I'm looking forward to more episodes that tackle each of the characters like Ludlow, Murdoch, Freed, Orla. I want to see these episodes that like divvy them up. But I hope Liko and Roy aren't together the whole time. I hope we get a mix up. I hope we get like Liko and all of the ladies and the whole thing. Or I hope we get an episode where we get all the guys like Roy, Freed, and Murdoch. That'd be kind of cool. Or I hope we get an episode with just Roy and Ludlow, or an episode with just Liko and Ludlow. Like, I really want to see the divvy ups between the Rising Volt Tacklers. But with that being said, again, like I said last time, the next episode is The Future I Choose. If I were to give this episode a score, I'm going to go ahead and give it a solid, we'll give it a 6. We'll give it about a 6 to 7 out of 10. So a 6.5 if we had to give it a score. 6.5. Honestly, I'm looking for battles that are going to be on the same par as like episodes 1 through 3. I think those were some really good battles, and I want to try to see if we can get back up to that level. And as far as the story goes, they're giving us bits and pieces, but obviously we're focusing on characters. So it's a slow burn, but obviously this means it'll probably age well later on as the series goes about. So with that being said, I will see you all next time. I'm going to try to get the next episode's review out a little earlier. The only reason I didn't because I was working with Zach for that discussion. I wanted that video, which is 2 hours long, by the way, so grab a snack if you want to go watch it. I wanted that video to be after episode 10. I thought it was appropriate that once we reached the double digits and once we reached episode 10, I think that was a nice spot in order to go ahead and put that discussion video. So if you haven't, go ahead and watch that. But now, as we continue, we'll be moving on to episode 12, and I'll try to get that review out a little bit sooner. I'll see you all then, everybody. Tyrone TG3, out. If you want to know where most of my time is spent, head on over to my Twitch channel to watch me stream games on Tuesdays through Thursdays, as well as Saturdays and Sundays. Also, be on the lookout on the PokePod, a podcast stream on my friend KG Prestige's channel, as we discuss the latest Pokemon anime episodes, as well as anime, manga, video games, and other fun topics. That's it. Go do those other things. This video's over.